We also recommend that you charge your cell phones before the storm arrives. So if you lose power at your home, you'll still be able to call 911. You'll still be able to monitor local weather. And it's very important that you monitor the local news stations, have weather apps, and listen to the radio so you know exactly what we're expecting and how to keep your family safe.
How many rescues have you all had so far this spring, water rescues?
Last month, we had, I believe, 6 large-scale water rescues in the area, and that's not just inside Tulsa. We responded outside of Tulsa some as well, but several of those cases were very close to drowning situations. So, especially around that moving water, it's very important to remember how powerful that water is. It only takes about a foot of water to move a car off of a roadway. And the concerning thing is, once we have flash flooding, we have fast-moving water, it can erode, the actual road can deteriorate. So even though it may look like it's shallow, there could be a drop-off that you don't see, and 6 inches of water can take the big SUVs, can actually float them off of the roadway. So it can be very dangerous. So it's best just to find an alternative route and stay out of that water. It's very, very dangerous.
And your friends behind you are getting the boat ready. What has preparations been like for something like this and this magnitude for you guys?
Right. So our rescue task force is always ready to respond to whatever we encounter. But today they've just been going through equipment, making sure the boats have everything they need on them, making sure they're ready to respond. We have personnel from Tulsa Fire, Tulsa Police, and Tulsa Area Emergency Management that will be staffing the Emergency Operations Center tonight and monitoring the situation so that we can stay ahead of that and make sure that we have the proper information for the citizens to stay safe. Our teams, while not here at the moment, we have crews at the fire stations, and our USAR team is on standby. So if we do experience a tornado or some large-scale weather event, those crews will be ready to go and on their way to help whoever's in need.
You guys have some new technology that you guys can deploy quickly or to search the banks. I mean, everybody's talking about, how high the water was in the Arkansas, right. And, people want maybe to take their, because I know Crow Creek years ago, growing up there, people would sometimes go swim in Crow Creek or when
right.
the water was fun, and, just telling
right.
kids and people and what kind of things can you do to help zero in if somebody gets swept away?
Right. So, well, first of all, anytime we have threats of severe weather, it's just best to stay out of those waterways in general. But if you find yourself in an emergency in one of those waterways, obviously you should try and yell for help so someone sees you and calls 911. But we now have a drone for first responder, which is stationed on top of the gathering place. So whenever a water rescue call does come into 911, that drone launches, it goes out, and it can determine, like in that case with the 2 gentlemen that were in the river, that drone was able to find them, see where they are, and say, we have a legitimate, viable rescue, and here's going to be the best place for you to put those boats into the water. So in that scenario, both those men were saved, and it was very close to being a different situation. So we do have some technology where we can quickly get eyes on that. And that's not just in the waterways either. That's, we utilize those for search and rescue scenarios in tornado situations. When we deployed to Helene, our rescue task force, they took the drones because the boats were going through some pretty dangerous waterways. So just to monitor the responders, even to make sure that they're safe. So, but our biggest concern today is, that potential hail, lightning, heavy rainfall, and even potentially tornadoes. So we're just hoping that people take it seriously and make the preparation that they need ahead of time, because as you know, if we fail to prepare, we prepare to fail, and we don't want that to happen.
How often do you all respond to lightning hitting a structure or a home during the spring particularly?
It's very common this time of year when we have these lightning and thunderstorms to have house fires because of that. I don't have an exact number, but I can tell you that it's pretty frequently that we respond to house fires. Fortunately, the majority of people do have fire protection or alarms in their homes, so they're alerted early, and the faster we get that call, we can get there and hopefully prevent property damage. So while there will be some damage, it won't burn your whole house down.
With folks, hitting the roads, leaving work, and the storm's going to kick in around that same time, what do people need to be mindful of while on the roads with trees, hail, and their
right.
car and safety overall?
Well, driving in general, when we have high winds and heavy rainfall and stuff like that, you're going to need to slow your speeds down. You're going to need to make sure you have more room between you and whoever's in front of you, so you have that stopping time, because it's reduced when the roads are wet. There's oil on the roadways, so you can much easily slide. You can hydroplane. You can leave the roadway and find yourself in a very dangerous situation. So the biggest thing is slow down. Leave a little early if you can. You know, if I know some businesses are closing down, some schools have closed down. So if you have that opportunity to go ahead and go home or go to wherever your destination is, that's a good idea, so that you're not rushing. Once that severe weather starts coming down, people often get fearful, and then they make mistakes. So the earlier you can do that is the better.
What should people do if they see somebody fall into the water? How should they communicate with you guys? What kind of information do you need? Because, I mean, if it's like in the middle of a storm, it's banging real hard.
Right.
What kind of vital information do you guys need from the public, and how to relay it to you guys to be the most efficient to deploy your rescue
Right.
apparatus?
Well, I mean, in general, to be good neighbors, we want to look out for each other. So if we see someone in trouble, you want to call 911 and give those dispatchers the most information that you can. So that's going to be your best estimate of where you are, you know, and that could be between 71st and 81st, and just give them the best information you possibly can. If it's a car that leaves the roadway into a waterway, if you can tell them what the car looked like, what kind of car it was, how fast it appeared to be going, things like that can help us. We've had scenarios in the past during heavy rainfall where cars left the roadway, and we're talking like 71st and Memorial area off of the highway, where those ditches fill up very quickly, and cars, while you would think they wouldn't go underwater quickly, they can. You know, water is very powerful and it's unpredictable in many ways, so it allows our crews to be able to pinpoint the best place to start that search and to imagine how far it could possibly have traveled in that time period.
Are there any tips or, I guess, etiquette if you get yourself stuck in water? Let's say you're driving, you hydroplane, now you know you're in your worst case scenario. What can you do when you're inside? Do you stay put? Do you call 911? Do you try to roll down the windows and equalize pressure? What do you do in a situation when...
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one. So, I mean, if you're in your car and you're swept off the roadway, I mean, it's tough to say. It just really depends on the scenario and what kind of environment you have. If you feel safe, like your car's sturdy but moving, I would say try to stay onto that. But you know, in water, we often have downed trees and we have things underwater that if you're in that water and the water pushes you up against it, it can cause you to drown. So the best thing to do is not get in that situation, you know, and the way to do that is to be safe. You know, accidents happen, we understand that, but calling 911 is the first thing that you should do. Tell them what your scenario is, again, where you are, and then crews can get there and get that rescue done quickly.
Can you talk about how you have people, like you mentioned earlier, who train for these water rescues, but how does it put your crews in danger when people decide to go around some of those barriers that
Right.
put up?
Well, in Tulsa specifically, there are several places in the city that they do go out and put signs to close roads when there's flooding, because we know people always get stuck, people sometimes get injured, and people do drive around those, and that's unfortunate. But our crews, anytime they enter water, it puts them at risk. And so our rescue coordinator today, they've been going over the boats, going over the equipment, making sure they have all the stuff that they need, and also talking to our firefighters that are on duty, because the normal gear that they wear, that bunker gear, is not safe for them to wear in the water. It's very heavy. It's like a bag of sand that would take them to the bottom. So when they go in those rescue scenarios, our task force has special dive equipment that they wear, and our firefighters, they have to just shed that bunker gear and go down to shorts and like regular day boots, because it reduces the risk of danger to them. So again, it's just one of those things. We have to do our best to help all of our neighbors, and that includes the firefighters. The firefighters are going to do their best to respond and help the citizens, but if they find themselves in danger, then they can't complete the mission like they had planned.
And another important reminder, when we have trees that we're expecting obviously to fall and they're on power lines, that important message for folks and those lines.
We had some recent severe weather, very high winds, many fires around Tulsa because of down power lines, and that can be very dangerous. You may not see a power line down. It could be down in your neighbor's yard, but if it makes contact with your fence and you touch that fence, you could be electrocuted. So it's always a good idea to be very cautious after storms, especially if you've seen trees go down, because there could be those electrical dangers outside. So if you see that line go down, you lose power, you just need to maybe stay inside, stay a safe distance away from those. We recommend like the distance of 1.5 times the length of that line away from it, because you don't even actually have to make contact with the power line to be energized. You just have to be close to it. So it's a good idea to stay as far away from that as you can.
And our sirens are all working up to date?
Yep, if you hear the sirens are actually designed for people that are outside. Many people think those are designed to alert you when you're in your home, but it's actually designed for people that are outdoors. But if you do hear those sirens, you should go inside, and if you're already inside, you should take shelter. Like I said, we always recommend, if you don't have a storm shelter, you don't have a safe room, maybe you're in an apartment complex, you want to go to the central area of that structure, get down low, and make sure that you're in a room that does not have an exterior wall. That just gives you more layers of protection and helps keep you from those dangers.
And we're not impacted by the National Weather Service cuts or anything, right? We're completely safe and operational.
National Weather Service what?
The cuts.
We're monitoring the National Weather Service. Our Tulsa Area Emergency Management team follows that very closely and gives us updates very regularly about that. I just received one, I think, an hour or so ago with updated information. So, again, the biggest threat that we're looking at right now is that hail, thunderstorms, lightning, and obviously heavy rainfall.
If anybody passes, because I've seen firefighters out there with the signs, putting out the signs sometimes in rural communities. If you drive around a sign there's also possibly fines involved too.
Yeah, you can absolutely get a ticket if you aren't following road signs. It's no different than running a stop sign if you're going around one of those signs. And a lot of people don't think about the highway speeds changing, but when we have severe weather, while the sign may say 65 miles per hour, you can receive a ticket from law enforcement officers if you're driving that, if they determine that to be a dangerous speed. And it can very well be a dangerous speed depending on what type of weather we're having. So you just have to slow down and make sure that you can maintain control of your vehicle, because ultimately we're all responsible for our vehicles. So if you're driving erratically or too fast, not getting that proper stopping distance, and you hit someone, you're liable for that, And while it could just be damage, it could also be injury or death, and nobody wants to have to deal with that.
Andy, anything else?
I don't think so. Anything else? All right. And he will be happy to move around and do some stuff with the boat if you want to.
Alrighty. Get a quick couple. Get this out of the way here. So, put that